Welcome to the Full Nelson. Today I'm going to be reviewing these vessel screwdrivers, these made in Japan screwdrivers. I was recently looking to upgrade my personal screwdriver set, and I went down the rabbit hole of trying to find out what screwdrivers were best and buy those, and that led me to this brand and a few other brands that you're going to see in some upcoming videos. And eventually I'll be comparing all of them against each other so that you can get an idea of what the pros and cons of each of them are. But for today, I'm just going to be talking about just this vessel brand. The first thing I want to address is, are they worth the money versus your regular cheapo Stanley screwdrivers or Craftsman screwdrivers or whatever it is you're accustomed to using. I've used Craftsman screwdrivers most of my life. I have some cheaper, really cheap Stanley screwdrivers that the finish has fallen off on, and they have not held up real well. And I don't just use my screwdrivers like some people do to turn fasteners. Some people think that it is abusive to take a screwdriver and hammer on it. If you're talking about hammering on the back of a screwdriver that has a Phillips bit or Torx bit or something like that on the back, I would probably agree with you in some situations, but there are other situations like using a flat-bladed screwdriver where I think that I use my flat-bladed screwdrivers far more for prying things or popping things apart or open or stuff like that, or basically as a chisel, than I do as a screwdriver, far more. So I wanted screwdrivers that are basically designed to be able to cope with that, and these have the striking cap on the back for that. Now, why would you put a striking cap on the back of a Phillips screwdriver? And I've wondered about that, like, aren't you going to destroy the tip of your screwdriver? Well, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it to try to pry something open or something, that's probably a problem. But I can tell you some situations I've encountered where I think even having the striking caps on a Phillips head is useful. And that is, if you have a fastener that is partially rounded, that's Phillips or Torx or something, and you have a screwdriver that has the ability to be struck, you can put this in the head of that fastener and give it a good whack with like a 2-pound hammer or something like that, or something that's got a little bit of weight behind it, and you can probably drive this thing into the head of that fastener a little bit more in order to get a good purchase and come out of a fastener that has been damaged. I've actually done this quite a bit. I've seen guys use the easy out bits, easy out different bits to remove fasteners that are stripped. They drill them out and then put them in. I've used those a few times, and I'll tell you, there's several options that I have seen that work a lot better than that. One guy I watched talked about having an issue on a motorcycle and trying to get this fastener out that had been partially stripped, and what he recommended was taking a Torx socket that is the appropriate size. The center fits the center portion of the fastener that's been stripped, and then the end is flared out with the Torx portion. And he said, take an extension and a sledgehammer and stick that in the head of that fastener and slam that thing in there. I have used that trick several times, and let me tell you, you will not find, or I have not found, any method that will give you more torque on a fastener than doing that. The easy out deal and all that, I mean, you will get more torque on a fastener doing that. The only tricky part is getting the fastener off when you're done. But as far as getting a purchase to get something out, a fastener out that's been destroyed, that is an amazing way to do that. So there are things like that. And again, some people will say that's abuse. Some people will say that's whatever, to each their own. I use my tools that way at times, and I try to buy tools that are designed to be able to cope with that, and these vessel brands are that way. Now, the difference between this and your traditional screwdriver is your traditional screwdriver just has your shank that comes into your handle, and the shank would just go part of the way into the handle. And in fact, I probably have, let me see if I've got my bag around here somewhere. I do. Give me 1 minute. So I've got one here as an example. I've got a bag full of these, but this is one of the newer Craftsman ones, and you can see inside that translucent handle that the shank just goes part of the way into the handle, and then there's a flared portion of that shank that holds on to that handle surface so that when you turn it, the shank doesn't just freely spin, and it's holding on to that plastic or whatever material this is, holding on to that. Now, These are different. And they're not translucent, so you can't see it, but you can look up the design of these and other demolition type screwdrivers or chisel screwdriver, whatever you want to call them. The shank of these screwdrivers runs the full length through the screwdriver all the way to the striking cap. So when you hit them, you're not pounding the handle onto the shank, and if you do that with a screwdriver like this, you could shove the shank into the handle of the screwdriver. That's virtually impossible with this. The shank would have to give out first because the entire shank would have to collapse and the handle would probably break and all that before something like that would ever occur. These, the way I would summarize it is that these are designed more like a full Tang knife as opposed to a partial Tang knife. A partial Tang knife, the Tang only runs a little way into the handle. Full Tang knives, and I have several fixed blades that are designed for heavier use that are that way, the blade material runs the whole way through the handle. These screwdrivers, the same principle applies. So they are very robustly built, and they're designed with the intent to be able to be used in some of those more difficult tasks where you're probably, most people would consider it abuse. And guess what? For a screwdriver like this, it probably is abuse. But if you buy the right tool that's actually designed with that abuse in mind, you're probably going to be okay. Now, the other aspect to this that you can see a difference is this has this hex-shaped portion here, and this doesn't. And that's so that you can put a lot of pressure with one hand and you could shove a wrench, or you could be putting all the pressure and somebody else could shove a wrench on here and be turning the fastener while you're putting pressure on. So it'll allow you to get more downward pressure on a stubborn fastener. So that's some of the design differences between your traditional screwdriver. I think that these are very well built. They get a better purchase on the fastener than what any of my older screwdrivers, whether it's my Craftsman or any of those, would get on fasteners. And I've really enjoyed them thus far. There's one other thing I was thinking of besides that. Oh, and these all come magnetized. If you guys don't have a magnetizer, I would highly recommend you get one. I've got one downstairs that I just picked up, and boy, that's an awesome thing to have. Like if you're getting a bunch of crud built up on your screwdriver bits, you can unmagnetize it, wipe them off real good, remagnetize them so that if you're working on a vehicle or something and you can't afford to drop a screw or a nut or a bolt or something down into a certain place, being able to take any metal shank thing and magnetize it is just an awesome feature to have. So if you guys don't have a magnetizer, I'll have to show you the one I picked up, but I think they all work the same way. That's something you might want to add to your toolkit. Anyway, I like them, 90 some odd dollars. Would I take them over some of the other brands I'm going to show in the future? I don't know yet because I'm still waiting on one of them. I've got my Wea set that I'm going to be reviewing and giving you an overview of today after I'm done with this video. And then my Wera set is coming next week, but they're all the same type, all same demolition type and all that kind of stuff. I want to say this set was like, I think they're $80 or $90, something like that. Anyway, so, you know, whether or not it's going to be worth it to you is subjective, but if you use them a lot and you want something that's going to last a long time and is built for hard use, these are great. If you guys have any questions or comments about these, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.